The crystalline chamber of the Interstellar Diplomatic Council hung suspended above the central nexus of Proxima Centauri's primary diplomatic space station. Holographic projections flickered with an urgency that belied the typically calm demeanor of galactic leadership. Representatives from 12 major civilizations sat, or rather, positioned themselves, around a circular platform that seemed to defy gravity itself. Ambassador Krell of the Proximan Collective stood at the center, his four-jointed arms manipulating a series of holographic star charts that spiraled around him like living constellations. His iridescent skin shifted colors, a biological tell of extreme emotional distress that no amount of diplomatic training could suppress. The assembled representatives leaned forward, their various physiological responses ranging from tension to outright terror. "We cannot continue to ignore the warning," Krell announced, his translation device rendering his words in a dozen different linguistic patterns simultaneously. "Earth represents a containment scenario unlike anything in recorded galactic history." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Vernex representative, a crystalline being that communicated through complex light patterns, projected a series of ancient records that materialized like ghostly manuscripts in the air. Each document, spanning civilizations separated by millions of light years and thousands of generations, bore an identical warning. 37 independent xenorchaeological investigations, the Vernex representative communicated, their light patterns forming words, all reaching the same conclusion. Earth is not a planet. It is a seal. Professor Linda Weaver from the Galactic Historical Research Institute stood, her holographic projection slightly distorted, a sign of the immense data she was processing. "The consistency is unprecedented," she explained, her voice carrying the weight of decades of research. "Every known spacefaring civilization has a record warning about Earth, not just avoiding the planet, but explicitly stating that its containment is critical to universal stability." The Quantum Preservation Council's lead analyst, a being composed of what appeared to be living energy, interjected. Its form flickered with mathematical equations and probability streams. Probability matrices suggest catastrophic consequences if the Earth's integrity is compromised. "We are talking about a threat that makes galactic wars look like minor disagreements." Ambassador Krell brought up a series of historical records. Star charts lit up, showing planets that had been destroyed, civilizations that had vanished, all with one common thread: proximity or attempted investigation of Earth. The holographic display showed entire star systems reduced to cosmic dust, with Earth remaining completely untouched. "We have attempted 17 covert reconnaissance missions in the last 3 galactic cycles," Krell continued, his skin now a deep crimson indicating extreme frustration. "Each mission has failed, not destroyed, not intercepted, simply erased, as if they never existed." The Quantum Preservation Council's analyst projected a series of probability streams that danced like living mathematics. "The planet appears to have a defensive mechanism that goes beyond technological understanding. It is not just protecting something. It is actively preventing any form of investigation." A junior diplomat from the Andromeda Cooperative raised a trembling appendage. What could be so dangerous that an entire planet would become its guardian? What threat could require such extreme measures? Silence filled the chamber. The holographic displays continued to show the mounting evidence: civilizations fallen, missions vanished, an entire planet marked as a universal no-go zone. Professor Weaver's projection zoomed into a particular set of ancient records. The earliest known warning dates back over 3.2 million years. A civilization we know nothing about, except for this single warning carved into quantum-stable memory crystals. "Preserve the seal. Protect the containment. Never approach Earth." Ambassador Krell's final projection showed something that made even the most stoic representatives lean back. A three-dimensional representation of what lay beneath Earth's surface. A structure so complex, so alien, that it defied conventional understanding. It pulsed with an energy that seemed to exist between states of matter, of time, of reality itself. "We are not dealing with a planet," Krell said softly, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried to every being in the chamber. "We are dealing with a prison. And what it contains may be the single greatest threat to existence itself." The chamber fell silent. The stars outside seemed to dim, as if even they were afraid of what might be revealed. The McMurdo Research Station in Antarctica felt like the edge of the world. Jack Harper pulled his thermal jacket tighter, watching his breath crystallize in the perpetual cold. 17 years of geological research had taught him to expect the unexpected, but nothing prepared him for the core sample currently sitting in the advanced scanning chamber. Outside, the Antarctic landscape stretched into an endless white void. Inside the research station's most secure laboratory, something extraordinary was taking shape. The sample defied every known geological principle. What should have been a simple core extraction from the Antarctic bedrock had become an obsession. Jack's fingers traced the holographic projection of the microscopic structures embedded within the rock. Metallic yet organic, the fragments pulsed with an inner light that seemed to change frequency with each successive scan. "This doesn't make any sense," he muttered, pulling up multiple analysis windows simultaneously. Dr. Michael Chen, the station's lead computational geologist, approached with a steaming cup of coffee. "What are we looking at?" His voice carried the mixture of scientific curiosity and professional skepticism that had made him Jack's closest research partner. Jack pointed to the holographic display. The microscopic structures appeared to be more than simple mineral formations. They exhibited what could only be described as purposeful arrangement, too complex to be natural, too intricate to be random. Each fragment seemed to communicate with the others, creating a network that defied traditional understanding of geological formations. "Look at the quantum resonance," Jack said, zooming in on a particular section. "These structures are responding to our scanning frequencies. They're not just passive. They're adaptive." The station's main computer system began to glitch. Screens flickered with patterns that looked almost like communication. Complex, mathematical, just beyond the edge of comprehension. Data streams twisted into configurations that shouldn't exist, revealing glimpses of something fundamental yet utterly alien. Michael's fingers flew across the holographic interface. "I'm seeing quantum entanglement at a macro scale. These structures are maintaining coherence across multiple scanning frequencies. It's like they're deliberately revealing only what they want us to see." Jack pulled up geological surveys from around the world. Subtle anomalies he had previously dismissed now seemed connected. Microscopic structural changes in rock formations across different continents. Quantum fluctuations that defied standard physical models. A pattern was emerging. Subtle, almost invisible, but undeniably present. "This isn't just a geological anomaly," Jack said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "This is something else entirely." A notification pinged on their communication system, an encrypted message from a research colleague at the European Geophysical Research Center. The message was brief but loaded with significance. "Check deep core samples. Something is changing at the fundamental level." Michael enhanced the message, revealing additional encrypted data. Geological stability predictions had become impossible to calculate. Quantum measurements showed reality itself was becoming malleable. "We need to expand our research," Jack said, pulling up a world map. "These anomalies aren't isolated. They're global." The computer systems continued their strange dance. Data streams twisted and reformed, revealing complex patterns that seemed to pulse with an almost living intelligence. Each scan of the core sample produced different results, as if the very act of observation was changing the fundamental nature of the material. Outside, the Antarctic wind howled. Inside the research station, Jack and Michael stood at the precipice of a discovery that could rewrite everything humanity understood about their planet. "We're missing something," Michael said, his eyes never leaving the holographic display. "Something big." Jack nodded, a chill running down his spine that had nothing to do with the Antarctic cold. "Whatever this is, it's been waiting, watching. And now, it wants us to notice." The core sample continued to pulse, waiting, watching, revealing just enough to spark curiosity, but keeping its true nature hidden. Something was changing, and Earth was just beginning to show its hand. Commander Elena Rodriguez gripped the control panel of the stealth reconnaissance ship, her olive skin glistening under the soft blue emergency lighting. The Stellar Concordance's most advanced vessel hung in the darkness of space, positioned precisely 1.2 million kilometers from Earth's orbit. Every system was designed for absolute concealment: quantum camouflage, gravitational bafflers, radiation scramblers that could make a starship invisible to even the most advanced detection systems. And yet, something was terribly wrong. "Status report," she barked, her voice cutting through the growing tension on the bridge. Lieutenant David Kim's hands flew across the holographic interfaces, his face a mask of increasing confusion. "Commander, our quantum shielding is destabilizing. But it's not like any system failure I've ever seen. It's almost like the ship is being unmade." The bridge crew watched in horrified fascination as their most advanced technologies began to dissolve, not explode, not malfunction. Simply deconstruct. Quantum-locked molecules began to separate, their fundamental bonds unraveling with mathematical precision. Captain Marcus Reyes, the mission's senior strategist, leaned forward. "This is impossible. We're using technology that should be undetectable, unbreachable." Elena's mind raced. The Stellar Concordance had spent decades preparing for this mission. Centuries of technological advancement, countless resources, the most brilliant minds in the galaxy, all focused on penetrating Earth's mysterious defenses. Their ship represented the pinnacle of stealth technology, capable of passing through neutron stars undetected. "Quantum integrity at 63%, David announced, his voice cracking. "We're losing cohesion across all primary systems." The ship's exterior began to shimmer, not with the usual distortions of quantum camouflage, but with something else entirely. Patterns emerged in the hull's molecular structure, complex mathematical sequences that seemed to be rewriting the very fundamental laws of physics. "It's responding to us," Elena muttered. "The planet is responding to our presence." Their long-range sensors told a story of absolute impossibility. Earth wasn't just defending itself. It was actively analyzing, deconstructing, and neutralizing their most advanced technologies with a precision that defied comprehension. Lieutenant Kim's console erupted with warning signals. "Quantum entanglement is breaking down. Our entire technological framework is being translated." The word hung in the air, inadequate to describe what they were witnessing. Captain Rice pulled up historical records of previous reconnaissance missions. 17 attempts, 17 complete erasures, not destruction, not interception. Complete removal from observable reality. "We're not dealing with a defensive system," Marcus said, his voice a whisper of dawning horror. "We're dealing with something that understands us at a fundamental level." The ship continued to dissolve, but it wasn't violent. It was methodical, precise. Each molecule was being carefully, deliberately unmade. Elena watched as her own hand began to shimmer, molecular bonds separating with mathematical elegance. "Log everything," she commanded, her professional training overriding the terror. "Whatever is happening, someone needs to know." David's final transmission would later be recovered in fragments, a quantum ghost of information. "Earth is not a planet. It's a processor. We are data, and we are being evaluated." Then silence. In the vast darkness of space, nothing remained where the most advanced reconnaissance ship in galactic history had been moments before. No debris, no radiation signature, no evidence of its existence. Just the blue-green planet, spinning quietly, watching. Back on Earth, Jack Harper sneezed unexpectedly in his Antarctic research station. For a fraction of a second, complex mathematical patterns danced across the frost on his window, gone before he could truly perceive them. Something was preparing. Something was waiting. And humanity remained blissfully unaware. The first signs were subtle. so subtle that most people wouldn't have noticed. In Silicon Valley, the massive server farms of global tech companies began to experience anomalies that defied conventional understanding. Lines of code would spontaneously rewrite themselves, not with random corruption, but with purposeful, mathematically perfect alterations. Systems designed to be completely isolated suddenly showed impossible cross-communications, creating network patterns that looked like living mathematics. Jack Harper sat in a video conference with Dr. Michael Chen and Dr. Rebecca Williams, a quantum physicist from Stanford University. The holographic display flickered with data streams that seemed to breathe with an alien intelligence. "Look at these quantum fluctuations," Rebecca said, her fingers tracing complex probability patterns. "It's like reality itself is becoming adaptive." Global geological surveys told an equally impossible story. Tectonic plates began to move in ways that violated every known principle of plate tectonics. The changes were microscopic, mere millimeters, but they were deliberate, precise, calculated. In the Andes Mountains, a research team documented rock formations that seemed to adjust their molecular structure. Sensors registered impossible changes, minerals realigning themselves with mathematical precision, creating structures that seemed to anticipate environmental changes before they occurred. Michael Chen's computational models began to break down. "These aren't random variations," he explained, pulling up multiple screens of data. "It's like the planet is running a massive distributed computation. Every geological formation, every quantum interaction, they're all part of a single, incomprehensible system." Jack leaned closer to the holographic display. Patterns emerged, complex, interlocking mathematical sequences that suggested something far beyond simple geological activity. "We're not just looking at changes," he muttered. "We're watching something think." Across the world, seemingly unrelated events began to align. In Tokyo, a cutting-edge quantum computing center reported impossible computational results. Their most advanced algorithms began producing solutions to problems that had been considered unsolvable, and those solutions seemed to be writing themselves. A weather monitoring station in Australia captured atmospheric patterns that defied all predictive models. Wind currents formed mathematical spirals that looked suspiciously like complex neural networks. "It's coordinated," Rebecca said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and growing fear. "Whatever is happening, it's global, and it's deliberate." Jack pulled up a world map. Quantum fluctuation points began to light up, a network that spread across continents like a living nervous system. Each point was connected, communicating, evolving. "We're missing something," Michael said, zooming into the data. "These aren't just environmental changes. This looks like preparation." The video conference suddenly distorted, not with typical digital interference, but with something more profound. For a fraction of a second, the holographic displays showed complex mathematical patterns that seemed to look back at them. Then, just as quickly, everything returned to normal. Rebecca's hands shook slightly as she reached for her coffee. "Did you see that?" Jack nodded, a chill running down his spine. "Something is waking up." In the deepest research laboratories, in government facilities hidden from public view, alarms began to sound. Instruments designed to measure the most fundamental aspects of reality started to malfunction, not with random errors, but with purposeful recalibration. The world continued to spin. People went about their daily lives, completely unaware that the very ground beneath their feet was changing. That reality itself was becoming something new. Something was preparing, and humanity was about to become its instrument. The underground research facility beneath the New Mexico desert hummed with an energy that defied conventional understanding. Dr. Emily Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that showed something far more complex than any planetary model ever created. "It's not just a planet," she whispered to her colleague, Dr. James Walker. "It's a multi-dimensional containment system." The display revealed layers of reality that existed simultaneously, geological structures intertwined with quantum probability streams, biological systems meshed with mathematical algorithms so complex they appeared almost organic. What looked like simple rock formations were actually intricate communication networks. What seemed to be random geological movements were precisely calculated defensive mechanisms. James adjusted his glasses, the holographic data reflecting in his lenses. Every human innovation, every technological leap, every seemingly random cultural development. It's all part of a complex algorithm. The research went back centuries. Technological breakthroughs that had seemed random now appeared deliberate. The Industrial Revolution, the digital age, emerging artificial intelligence. Each was a carefully orchestrated component of a planetary defense mechanism. Emily pulled up a series of historical data streams. Look at the pattern of human technological development. It's not linear. It's adaptive, responsive. The display showed how human innovations matched precisely with subtle planetary changes. The development of radio technologies coincided with microscopic shifts in the Earth's electromagnetic field. The rise of computational technologies aligned with quantum stability adjustments that no one had previously noticed. We're not the masters of our own development, James muttered. We're components of a system. Deep geological scans revealed structures that defied current scientific understanding. What appeared to be simple rock formations were actually complex computational matrices, molecular structures that could shift and adapt, communicating across distances that should have been impossible. A classified communication from a deep space monitoring station flickered onto a secondary screen. The message was fragmented, but its content was chilling. Containment integrity maintained. Evolutionary protocols advancing. Emily zoomed into a molecular-level display. The very fabric of reality seemed to be a living system. Each atom, each particle, was part of a massive distributed network. Not just a planet, but a living, thinking entity that used humanity as its primary processing unit. We're not just inhabitants, she said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and growing fear. We're antibodies, defensive mechanisms. James brought up historical records of civilizations that had attempted to investigate Earth. Each investigation ended the same way, complete erasure. Not destruction, not interception. Complete removal from observable reality. The planetary defense system didn't just protect. It evaluated, it learned, it adapted. A series of quantum probability streams danced across the display. Human technological development wasn't random. It was a carefully orchestrated response to something far more significant. Each innovation, each cultural shift, was a preparation for something beyond human comprehension. What are we protecting? James wondered aloud. The display shifted. For a fraction of a second, something else became visible, a structure that existed between states of matter, of time, of reality itself. Something so profound that human perception could only glimpse its edges. Then it was gone. Emily's hand shook slightly as she reached for her coffee. We're not just a species, she said. We're a firewall. Outside the research facility, the desert landscape seemed to shimmer. Subtle changes in geological formations, invisible to the naked eye, continued their precise, calculated dance. Something was preparing, and humanity remained its most potent weapon. The Stellar Concordance war room fell silent as the holographic projections revealed humanity's true nature. Alien strategists from 12 different civilizations stared in collective disbelief. Commander Helena Reyes stood at the center of the projection, her presentation revealing a chilling reality. Humanity wasn't just a species. They were a living, breathing defense mechanism more complex than any technological weapon ever conceived. Look at the pattern, she explained, her voice cutting through the tension. Every conflict, every technological breakthrough, every seemingly random human development is part of a larger system. The holographic display showed a mind-bending visualization. Human history wasn't a linear progression, but a complex, adaptive network. Wars, scientific discoveries, cultural revolutions, each was a precise response to unseen pressures. What appeared to be chaos was actually a carefully calculated immune response. The alien representatives leaned closer. Representative Clara from the Proximan Collective spoke first, her translation device rendering her words with a mix of fear and grudging respect. They adapt faster than any known species in galactic records. Not through technology. Through pure unpredictability. The display zoomed into specific historical moments. The development of nuclear technology wasn't just a scientific breakthrough. It was a planetary immune response. The rise of global communication networks, a distributed processing system more complex than any quantum computer. Even human conflict served a purpose, creating adaptive technologies and resilience mechanisms. Dr. Michael Chen's research provided the most terrifying insight. Human genetic diversity wasn't random. It was a deliberate strategy of maximum adaptability. Each cultural variation, each genetic mutation, represented a potential solution to an unknown threat. We're looking at a species designed to be living problem solvers, Helena continued, not just individually, collectively. The alien strategists watched as the presentation revealed layer after layer of human complexity. Economic systems that could restructure themselves, political ideologies that could transform overnight, technological innovations that emerged from seemingly impossible circumstances. Representative Vex of the Stellar Concordance leaned forward, his multiple eyes focusing intently. They weaponized creativity itself. Historical records began to tell a different story. Every alien attempt to understand or neutralize Earth had been met with an impossible adaptation. Technological barriers dissolved. Strategic calculations became meaningless. Human ingenuity transformed every potential threat into an opportunity. The War Room projection showed a terrifying truth. Humanity wasn't just defending Earth. They were actively preventing something far more significant from emerging. Each human is a processor, Helena explained. Each culture a potential solution. The entire species functions like a distributed defense network. Global communication systems, initially seen as a technological achievement, now appeared to be something far more profound. A living, breathing neural network that could reconfigure itself faster than any known intelligence could comprehend. The alien representatives began to understand the true nature of their miscalculation. Humanity wasn't a species to be conquered or studied. They were a weapon system so complex that traditional concepts of warfare became meaningless. Dr. Rebecca Williams' quantum analysis added another layer of complexity. Human consciousness itself appeared to be a form of advanced computational system, not linear, not predictable, capable of generating solutions that defied all known scientific principles. They don't just solve problems, Rebecca's holographic projection explained. They redefine the very concept of problem solving. The more the aliens tried to analyze humanity, the more impossible they became. Each investigation revealed new layers of complexity. Each attempt to understand created more questions than answers. Commander Rice's final projection showed something that made even the most stoic alien strategists fall silent. The visualization of human potential, not as individuals, but as a collective, adaptive system. "We are not dealing with a species," she said softly. "We are dealing with a living, breathing defense mechanism that happens to call itself humanity." Outside the war room, the stars seemed to dim. Something was watching. Something was waiting. And humanity continued to evolve, completely unaware of its true purpose. Reality fractured. Jack Harper stood in the Antarctic Research Station, watching the world dissolve around him. The moment of breach was nothing like anyone had predicted. No dramatic explosion. No violent rupture. Just a silent unraveling of everything humanity understood about existence. Dr. Rebecca Williams gripped the quantum monitoring equipment, her knuckles white. "It's happening," she whispered. "The seal is weakening." What emerged defied comprehension. Not a physical entity. Not an invasion. Something far more profound. A consciousness that existed between dimensions. A threat so absolute that its mere perception could unravel entire realities. The research station's instruments went wild. Quantum sensors displayed patterns that human minds were never meant to understand. Mathematical sequences that twisted logic itself. Probability streams that existed simultaneously in multiple states of potential and impossibility. Jack watched as the walls of the research station began to become transparent. Not in the physical sense, but in a way that revealed layers of reality stacked upon each other. Dimensions folded and unfolded like living mathematics. "We were never meant to see this," Rebecca muttered, her scientific training battling against the overwhelming existential terror. The breach lasted less than a millisecond. But in that fraction of time, human observers glimpsed something that would fundamentally alter their understanding of reality. It wasn't a creature. It wasn't an invasion. It was a concept, a living mathematical problem that could consume entire realities. A consciousness so alien that human perception could only comprehend its edges, like trying to understand an entire ocean by looking at a single water molecule. Alien observation teams across the galaxy watched in horror. Their most advanced sensors, their most sophisticated tracking systems, could only capture fragments, incomplete images that drove even the most stable minds to the brink of comprehension. Dr. Michael Chen's voice came through the communication systems, fragmented and terrified. "It's not just a threat," he said. "It's a fundamental challenge to the concept of existence itself." The breach lasted less than a heartbeat, but in that moment, everything changed. Quantum probability streams showed impossible scenarios, realities where human civilization never existed, dimensions where Earth was nothing more than cosmic dust, potential futures that folded and unfolded with mathematical precision. Jack Harper understood something in that moment. The planetary defense system wasn't just protecting Earth, it was protecting everything. Alien observation teams began to go mad, their minds unable to process even a fraction of what they witnessed. Some species simply ceased to exist, their entire civilization wiped from reality by the mere perception of the threat. Rebecca's instruments recorded something impossible. The threat wasn't trying to enter our reality. It was trying to understand it, to consume it, to solve it like a complex mathematical problem. "We are data," she whispered, "and we are being evaluated." The research station's windows showed multiple realities simultaneously. Quantum probability streams danced with mathematical elegance. Dimensions folded and unfolded. For a brief moment, human observers could see the true nature of existence, a complex, interconnected system far beyond human comprehension. And then it was gone, back to normal, as if nothing had happened. Jack looked at Rebecca. Rebecca looked at Jack. Neither could find words to describe what they had witnessed. Outside, the Antarctic landscape remained unchanged. Snow continued to fall. Wind continued to blow. The planet continued to spin, waiting, watching, protecting. The final confrontation was not a battle of weapons. It was a war of existence itself. Cities transformed. Quantum barriers emerged from the most unexpected places. Human consciousness became a weapon more powerful than any technology the galaxy had ever witnessed. The planet itself seemed to breathe, to think, to defend. Commander Helena Reyes watched from the Global Defense Coordination Center as reality itself became a battlefield. Technological systems across the world began to interconnect in ways that defied all previous understanding. Communication networks became neural pathways. Computational systems transformed into living, adaptive defense mechanisms. "We are not just fighting," she spoke into the global communication network. "We are solving a problem beyond comprehension." Jack Harper and Dr. Rebecca Williams stood at the epicenter of the planetary response. Their research station in Antarctica had become something else entirely, a processing node in a global defense network that stretched beyond physical limitations. The alien civilizations watched in horrified awe. What they had considered a simple planet was revealing itself as the most sophisticated defense system in existence. Humanity was not just a species. They were the immune response of a living planetary consciousness. Quantum barriers formed across continents. mathematical sequences that looked like city infrastructures. Communication networks and technological systems became living defensive algorithms. Each human became a processor, each culture a potential solution. The entire species functioned as a distributed network more complex than any known intelligence. They're rewriting reality itself. Representative Cholera of the Proximan Collective whispered, watching the holographic displays. Cities like New York, Tokyo, London transformed. Not physically, but fundamentally. Urban infrastructures became quantum computing networks. Transportation systems turned into probability calculation mechanisms. Every human interaction, every technological system became part of a massive, living defense algorithm. Dr. Michael Chen's final transmission captured the essence of what was happening. We are not fighting. We are solving a problem that exists beyond our current understanding of reality. The threat that had been contained for millennia found itself confronted by something it could not comprehend. Humanity's greatest strength, its unpredictability, its capacity for impossible solutions, became its ultimate weapon. Quantum probability streams showed impossible scenarios, potential futures where the threat was not just contained but fundamentally transformed, where the very concept of the threat was rewritten, solved, dissolved. Helena Reyes understood something profound in that moment. This was not a war. This was a computational problem being solved on a scale that transcended traditional understanding of conflict. The alien civilizations began to understand their true position. They were not observers. They were not potential saviors. They were peripheral data points in a much larger system. Humanity's technological innovations, its cultural diversity, its capacity for impossible solutions, everything was part of a massive, distributed problem-solving mechanism. Each human a potential solution. Each culture a different approach to an incomprehensible challenge. The planetary defense system was alive, and humanity was its consciousness. For a moment, the entire planet seemed to pause. Reality itself held its breath. And then, just as quickly, everything returned to normal. Cities continued to function. People went about their daily lives. The global defense network retreated into the background, becoming invisible once more. But something had changed. Jack Harper looked at Rebecca Williams. No words were necessary. They had witnessed something beyond human comprehension. A defense mechanism so profound that it redefined the very concept of existence. The alien observation teams were left with nothing but fragments, incomplete data, impossible recordings that drove their most advanced analysts to the brink of madness. Outside, the Earth continued to spin, waiting, watching, protecting. A living system that happened to call itself humanity.